Hello and welcome to this brand new podcast called HeartTalk, being presented from Karachi, Pakistan. My name is Shahzeb Jillani, and in this endeavor, my partner in crime is the fabulous Wajiha Naqvi. Wajiha, how are you?
Hi Shahzeb, I'm good. Thank you.
Are you excited about
I'm very excited to launch our new podcast with everyone today.
Super. So Wajiha has a background in anthropology. She's a singer, musician, and has a deep interest in devotional music of South Asia. I am a journalist. I have been a journalist for many years, mostly indulging in topics like politics and economy and disasters and whatnot. But I've always had deep interest in culture and heritage. So Wajiha and I teamed up to explore some of these themes about human condition, and we decided to call it HeartTalk. Why did we do that?
So HeartTalk is really a podcast about everyday conversations, about life, about the struggles of life, like you said, about the human condition, but particularly those dealing with the heart. So it's HeartTalk.
Not hard talk.
Not HeartTalk. And we're going to start off our series with rediscovering our heritage, particularly the folk tales of our region. And why did we do folk tales is actually because, we wanted to reconnect, we wanted to delve into a lot of the literature that's there that we have never read before.
Yes.
But then share this journey with everyone else. So that's
Absolutely.
Exactly what you and I will do on this.
So we decided to start off with Heer Ranjha, which is obviously an epic romantic tale from Punjab, immortalized by Waris Shah, mainly because it's the most popular one that still resonates with people around the world.
And it has a very tragic ending, and us South Asians love that kind of tragedy and romance, very Bollywood also.
And Waris Shah's version is unique for many reasons.
Yes. So Waris Shah's is that it has the tragic ending where Heer Ranjha, as we'll see, are not able to unite. But more than that, Waris Shah is also a very renowned Sufi poet of Punjab. He's revered even by, Punjabis from both sides of the border, actually from the region. Yeah. Sikhs also revere him, Muslims revere him for his poetry. And it was this particular version of Heer Ranjha was written in 1766,
right.
So the 18th century. He's also known as the Shakespeare of Punjabi, by the way.
Right,
That's something I learned.
So we've learned quite a bit in terms of preparing for this podcast, because as I said, we are both in a way students of our culture and heritage. So we will approach it in that manner. So by no means we claim to be experts or scholars or academics in this field. And as we are reading, indulging in this, we will be sharing with you the things that we find interesting. So in terms of the format, what we'll do is maybe we'll spend 10-15 minutes narrating the story in case many of our viewers, listeners haven't heard it or know vaguely about it but don't really know much about it, so that you get the gist of it. It'll be the tip of the iceberg because there's so much in there, right? You read and I read.
Yes, yeah.
So we'll first share the narrative and then what strikes you interesting and maybe
how
I
it
can...
relates to our lives today.
And how it relates to today.
About.
Absolutely. So shall we?
Let's begin.
Okay, all right.
Let's begin. And I'd love for you to begin the story. So Shahzeb, please do the honors.
Okay.
The opening batsman as always.
Whew. All right.
No pressure.
Okay. All right, so let's start. जैसे हमारी अक्सर कहानियाँ शुरू होती हैं. Once upon a time, there was a man called Ranjha. His full name was Dido Ranjha, लेकिन we'll call him Ranjha throughout. He was the youngest of brothers, very favorite of his dad, also spoiled because he didn't really work hard. All he did was kind of play his flute, which he was really good at.
That's the life.
And that was the life, right? Everything was nice, hunky-dory. His brothers didn't really like him. They were jealous of him. They said, he doesn't do much, and yet our dad is, always giving him preferential treatment. The family was a landowning family. They were part of Jat clan, and the village was called Takht Hazara. That's where the story starts. Now, unfortunately, Ranjha's father dies, and the brothers come together and they scheme and they plan and they distribute the land, taking the best and most fertile for themselves and giving him the barren and infertile bits of land. So Ranjha is dejected. His brothers' wives ridicule him, make fun of him, and they say, you're lazy, you don't do anything, all you do is sit there and play your flute. Why don't you make yourself useful? And there comes a point when he gets fed up and he says, okay, I've had enough. My dad is gone. My family is not treating me well. I'm going to take off. So he leaves the village and he is traveling through Punjab and he comes across a mosque where he has to take shelter, spend the night. To pass his time, what does he do? He starts playing his flute. That's the only thing he knows, right? Now, Ranjha is described by Waris Shah as this man who has long hair. He's handsome, but he's not your typical macho man, who projects his masculinity. So he's pretty unique, I suppose, and a bit of misfit there. So he starts playing his flute. The villagers listen to the sound. They gather. They're listening to him. There's a crowd, and then the imam of the mosque also says, "What the hell is going on?" And he comes and sees Ranjha and he confronts him. He confronts him for his appearance, for his long hair, for playing music in the mosque, admonishes him and says, "This is against Sharia. What are you doing? People like you need to be punished and taken to task." And Ranjha has a dialogue with him, confrontation with him. He's not afraid. He tells the mullah off and says, you guys, pretend to be all holy and pious, but you are hypocrites because you indulge in all these immoral acts. You have no sympathy for somebody who's looking for shelter, and instead you're being mean and hostile to me. And there's that exchange. And because the villagers are siding with Ranjha and not really supporting the mullah, he feels isolated. He says, okay, fine, I'm not going to let you stay here overnight, but be gone by the morning. So he spends the night. There's a new day. Ranjha takes off. He walks off to River Chenab nearby, and on the banks he finds a boatman who takes people across, and he says, "Can you please take me across the river? I have no money, and for the love of God, please, please, please." He's pleading, but the boatman says, "Sorry, nothing doing. I do this for money. This is my livelihood. You have no money, so sorry." Ranjha pleads, but is unsuccessful, dejected. He sits by the river, doing what? Playing his flute again. That's all he knows. So he's playing this really sad tune, and again, people are drawn to his music, his sound. Among them, two wives of the boatman, Luddan Mullah, and they are enamored by him, and they are mesmerized by Ranjha, and he's playing that flute and music, and then he says, okay, he's not going to give me a ride on boat. I'm just going to walk through River Chenab. And he starts heading towards the river, and everybody stops him. No, don't do this. You're going to drown. The river current is very high. And they manage to convince him and say, come back and we'll talk to Luddan and he will take you on the boat. His heart softens and he says, okay, fine, get on the boat and I'll take you across. And as they make that journey on the boat, there is this sofa or a settee, which is kind of really comfortable. He sits on there, and he's told not to sit there because it belongs to a beauty queen of the area called Heer, and she's a daughter of a rich landowner. But he doesn't listen. He sits there and he falls asleep. And the boat then crosses the river Chenab. The other side is called Jhang district, and he gets there. And that's where Heer is waiting. She's there with her friends. And then what happens? You tell me.
Yes. So Heer is known as Heer Sial from the Sial tribe and lives in Jhang. Her father, like you mentioned, is called Chuchak, who's a famous landlord of the region. So she roams around the whole of Jhang with like 60 friends of hers.
Not one, not two, 60. Yeah.
Okay, and she's, like you mentioned, she's a beauty queen. And of course, her friends are also really, really beautiful. So she goes and she sees Ranjha sleeping on her sofa on the boat. And she says, who is this person? Get out of here. This is my seat. And Ranjha, with his, very like dashing looks, he supposedly has long hair, he opens his eyes and suddenly their eyes meet, and that's where they just instantly fall in love. And Ranjha looks at Heer and, he sees how beautiful she is. He tells her, don't be very arrogant about your beauty. But I must mention, Waris Shah is really beautifully described. Of course, we wish we could say this in Punjabi, but in English, I'd just like to share how Heer has been described. So she's been described as her eyes soft with love as the eye of a deer, matha jaise mahtab, mahtab is moon. So her forehead shines like the moon. Cheeks as bright as roses. Her features as lovely as the curves of a manuscript written by a cunning scribe. So this is all Waris Shah was writing.
Wow.
As a poet. Teeth like pearls, moti jeve dand, right? Nose like Hussein's sword. So Imam Hussein is the reference here.
Yeah.
Locks like black cobras. And even her friends are described as, these like really beautiful women, Punjabi women are described in this manner. So it's very beautiful, evocative description of Heer. They fall in love. Heer instantly says, you are the one that I've been waiting for all my life. And Ranjha feels the same way. It's as if they were these separated lovers forever, but when they meet, they knew that they were always meant to be together.
She completely surrenders.
Completely surrenders, and she convinces Ranjha to come and work with her father as a buffalo herder. Now, as you mentioned, Ranjha to बहुत ही नाजुक मिजाज, सिर्फ फ्लूट बजाते हैं, उन्हें कोई मुश्किल काम ही नहीं किया अपनी.
Yeah, soft hands.
Soft hands. That's what her father says. कि ये कैसे बकरियां चराएगा, ये कैसे ख्याल करेगा? But she eventually convinces her father that he will. Now, this is where also there's a relevance of the 5 peers that appear in the story, and they appear throughout. They're called the Panch Peer. And these are famous Sufi saints of our region, ranging from Sindh to Multan and Punjab. So they make frequent appearances, and we'll talk about this later, why they're important. So Heer and Ranjha then kind of begin their love affair, which carries on for 12 years.
It's a love fest.
It's a love fest, and they
in a jungle.
So Heer goes and meets him in a forest, and she brings him like cake and pastries and butter and doodh, and he meanwhile takes care of all the buffaloes. That's where the evil villain enters, and this person is called Kedo, who is the uncle of Heer, her father's brother. Kedo is an evil uncle, says, she's bringing so much dishonor to our family, to a Sial tribe, and of course there's a caste reference here as well. We must do something about this. Anyway, the parents are also, really concerned because, badnami phail rahi hai, and like they must stop this love affair.
Sounds like it was a hashtag which went viral, right? And now everybody's talking about it, and they're saying, oh my God, what are we going to do about it?
Yeah, so what they eventually do is, Heer's parents, they consult with a Qazi, and they decide to marry her off against her will into the Khedas. Now, the Khedas live in this other town called Rangpura, which is still in Punjab.
Also a wealthy family?
Also a wealthy family, and they decide to marry her off against her will, even though she protests. She says, I will never be the wife of Sedo. Seda, I'm sorry, is her future husband's name. So she dejects. She says, I will not accept it, but she's forcefully married against her will.
So that's when the suffering begins. They're separated.
That's when they're separated.
They cannot be together. And Ranjha, according to some versions, is told by Heer that you have to go and become a jogi. So he goes to this place called Tilla Jogia, and he is there to meet an influential jogi called Balnath. He says to Balnath that I want to be your disciple, I want you to be my guru and guide me through this suffering. His guru is skeptical. He's saying, well, you don't look like a typical jogi or a beggar from low class. You look like that you're from an upper class. So he's not really sure whether this guy is committed.
You haven't suffered enough.
And you haven't suffered enough. But Ranjha manages to convince him that I'm committed. I want to become a jogi. And he makes all the effort to immerse himself in the practice and becomes one of them.
And this is a Hindu yogi, by the way.
This is a Hindu yogi. And the transformation is meant to help him forget Heer. But it doesn't. And there comes a point where his guru, as well as the 5 saints you mentioned earlier, so obviously they are Muslim, he's Hindu, they all kind of tell him that it's okay for you to pursue your passion. It's okay. You don't really have to abandon everything and become this wanderer, and it's fine.
They confirm that Heer and Ranjha will be united, and
they
so
will be
they
united.
give their blessing.
They give their blessings, and that's when Ranjha goes to the village of Rangpura, which is where Heer is living with her husband, and now he's totally transformed. He's a yogi, and he enters the village.
So all this time, where Heer has been forcefully married off into the khedas, she has not accepted her husband or her in-laws, and everyone seems to notice that she's been really devastated and sad. And she's almost as if she's waiting that Ranjha will come, because she's also told Ranjha that, you become a jogi and you come to my village where I'm living right now. So Ranjha, like you said, returns as a jogi. And in this time, Heer also becomes close to her sister-in-law called Seti. Now, Seti is also separated from her lover, her Baloch lover called Murad. He's a camel driver, apparently. Seti understands how much Heer has been suffering, and she connives to make a plan that, the way she'll unite Ranjha with Heer is that she's going to make this whole plan where Heer gets bitten by a snake, and ultimately the only person that will be able to save her from that snake bite will be Ranjha, because Ranjha now, who's appeared as a jogi in town, is the talk of the town. And Ranjha, eventually comes, and Heer and Ranjha are united, and as promised, Seti is also united with her lover called Murad, and they run away.
But they're caught.
But they are caught. They're caught by the village, because of course it's a small town, everyone knows. So they're caught in the village, and they take them to this court of justice, which is run by a Hindu Raja called Raja Adli. Adli, I guess, from justice.
Yeah.
अब वो उसको कहते हैं कि हमें इंसाफ दिलाओ, हीर एंड रांझा से कि हमें इंसाफ दिलाओ, जबरदस्ती हीर को मुझसे अलग किया जा रहा है. So Raja says कि you guys got married off into the khedas. You are not Heer's husband. How can you say that she is yours? But he says no. This was destiny. We were always meant to be together. God was our witness.
Right.
Anyway, the Raja actually believes, and he agrees, and he says, no, Heer and Ranjha are meant to be together. Theirs is the truest form of love.
Right.
And so he rules in their favor.
And the family says,
the family, obviously, in that time, Heer's family, Heer convinces Ranjha and says, if I must go back to my family, it's a matter of great honor. If you were to bring a marriage procession and take me back in the way that, the traditions of our times and the tradition is of the subcontinent, कि barat leke jayegi unko respectfully. So his family also says, send Ranjha away to Takht Hazara, get his and you can go with him. The family, in the meanwhile, under the conspiracy of Kedo, decides that because he has brought so much dishonor, Kheda se bhi
What's
bhag
his
jayenge.
problem?
He's really some evil villain who really doesn't want them.
Well, actually, he's really important in the story, right?
He's important.
Yeah.
He represents lots of.
He brings
certain
tension.
things. But he convinces the family that Heer ko, the only way that we can be absolved from all of this mess is that we must kill her. And honor killing is something that has been happening for a long time. We see that today as well. So what they do is that they tell Heer that actually Ranjha has died, and they feed her poison. And meanwhile, when Ranjha is coming back to Jhang to take his wife and to live together, he hears that Heer has been killed, and so he also dies. And they both, this is the tragic ending that Waris Shah wrote, that they both die and they're unable to be together.
So they never meet in life.
So they never meet in life, and they meet in the hereafter, and that's this classic tale of which we've really abridged, and there's so much here, but we actually studied it. I mean, there's so much to learn here. But Shahzeb, let's get into how important it is for us today, or how it relates to us, you know, in our lives today. I mean, written in 1766. I'd love to ask you, what did you learn from reading this? And you as a journalist, you've traveled all over. How does it relate to your life?
So this is really interesting because I have actually been to their shrine in Jhang. I was there in 2018 when I was covering elections, and I was passing by and they said, come and take a look, and I took a picture there. I had no idea that you and I will be sitting 3 years down the road and talking about Heer Ranjha. And I have to say, destiny. I have to say, in preparing for this, I have learned so much and really gotten into the story and into Waris Shah, for example. It's a real shame that in our part of the world, we don't teach children about it. We don't grow up listening to it, especially in the cities. I think our rural folks are more in tune with it. But to answer your question, I think for me, as a journalist, I think the way Waris Shah, obviously he's weaving a romantic tale. It's about love, and not just romantic love, but also divine love. But for me, what was really interesting is how he's subtly exposing and demolishing institution after institution, which he believes is oppressive, controlling, and creates obstacles. So the whole exchange with the mullah, who's into rituals and rules and regulations and strict version of Islam, and Waris Shah through Ranjha saying and exposing that institution. He's not talking to just one mullah, he's speaking to the establishment, the religious establishment. The role of qazis, for example, throughout the episode, as you've pointed out, whether they are distributing land,
or
whether
they're forcefully marrying off.
Forcefully marrying off, always siding with the ruling class, always siding with the powerful.
Even when they go to the court of justice, the qazi says, "Nahi, I married you off into the khedas, and you will listen because you're a woman." Because you're a woman.
So Waris Shah is trying to expose these institutions, social injustice, inequality, but he's also showing how Heer and Ranjha. So sometimes Waris Shah is speaking through Ranjha and sometimes through Heer, how they are pushing back, how they are fighting. And that to me is quite fascinating. I think you mentioned when we were talking earlier about how Heer comes across empowered. For example, she's the one, when they fall in love, who takes the initiative to express her love. Ranjha is skeptical. He's saying, no, you're going to ditch me, you're going to use me, I'm not so sure. And she's saying, no, I've completely surrendered. So she's empowered and she's strong.
I really think it is like a kind of a feminist interpretation of this. Because, even with the characters, both Heer and Ranjha, they embody both masculine and feminine traits. They're not, like you said, Heer ने तो एक जगह अपने जाके Kedo अपने uncle की कुट भी लगाई है, like physically. When she learns that he's interfering, she literally runs in the forest and kicks him and breaks his pot. So you see that sign of physical aggression. At the same time, she's beautiful. And then you see Ranjha, who has long hair. He's very effeminate, actually. He's very gentle.
Why is he attracting women all the time then?
He's like a ladies' man, like a charmer. But so is he, right? And what I love about it is it shows the complexity in us as human beings rather than being male, female. And it's feminist because they're actually answering back to the mullahs, to orthodoxy, to the qazi. Heer says to him, there will be no happiness in a nation which mistreats its women. Sethi says the same thing to Ranjha, that you don't know what the significance of women is and how important, powerful they are, and weren't Adam and Eve both not equal? So Waris Shah is really establishing the status of women as equal and in fact as really empowered, that unka hak hai to live their life to full potential, be with who they want to be. And he really like complicates this. And zahir hai wo us zamane ke hisab se unhone wo kahani batayi hui hai. But I really think that, if we were to teach this in our schools today, I mean, another problem that we do face in our societies, both across the border, India here, is of extremism, right? Of religion being used to divide people. But here we see this seamless integration of like identities across religion. Matlab jab khedas shaadi bhi uski rakhte hain, they consult a Brahmin astrologer, to find out ki ye din sahi hai ki nahi. Heer Ranjha constantly unki kahani mein, aap Mahabharat ya aap Ramayan ka zikr sunte hain, jisme again Ram Sita was separated by Ravan. So there are like so many religious...
It's a multi-faith, multicultural society where people are moving seamlessly and there's no divisions as such, right? They are coexisting.
The jogi, the whole transformation of the jogi. I mean, both the Balnath and the 5 Peers. So the 5 Peers are like,
Can you name them?
So the 5 Peers are Hazrat Lal Shahbaz Qalandar from Sindh, Baba Farid Shakarganj,
Bahauddin Zakaria, Multan,
from Multan, Jalaluddin, Hazrat Jalaluddin, unka last name Bukhari, and another one, I believe.
We're missing one. Khwaja
Khizr, who is the Lord of the Water, jise kehte hain, Zinda Peer. सिंध में उनकी बड़ी उनकी अहमियत है.
और हम villages में और rural areas में, these are big figures, larger than huge following to this day. There has to be something about these people and their teachings. They are still popular. I also want to touch on the class conflict. I mean, I don't want to do a Marxist analysis of this, but to me it came across again and again. The whole idea, for example, that Ranjha is a shepherd and Heer is a daughter.
Even though he comes from a wealthy family.
But that doesn't matter because where he is a shepherd. And he may have a rich background, but one of the reasons... See, I was wondering about Kedo, the uncle, the villain. And I was saying, what if he wasn't there? Wouldn't this be a hunky-dory story? And then I thought, even if the villain wasn't there, her father wouldn't have married her off to Ranjha because after all, he is a shepherd, he's an employee and he's one of the many slaves. And the way power is manifested then and now, rich people would ideally want to marry their daughters or have these marriages with their own class.
It is the same caste, Shahzeb.
Caste,
so, caste is a big issue. That they must be, agar Punjabi hain, Jat hain, usi mein shaadi hogi. We see that now here as well. With people, religions to chhod de, within the same tradition, Sunni or Shia or whatever, it'll have to be the same caste, but this is all something that Waris Shah is actually just throwing away.
So, I mean, my hunch is, and I've heard some scholars say this, that why Waris Shah his version became most popular is because he's addressing these issues which are close to people's heart. He's not out there preaching. He's telling you a lovely love story, but there are themes and twists and turns and ups and downs where people can relate to it. Somebody whose land has been appropriated with the connivance of corrupt officials can relate to Ranjha, that how he was denied his due share. When a woman is forced to get married with the blessings of a Qazi, women can relate to it, that not only my family, but the people who are supposed to ensure, okay, Islam may be, zabardasti shadi nahi hai, they did not protect me. So there are all these injustices which Waris Shah is exposing very beautifully in his narrative that I think people can relate to, and that is why I think this story is still valid and it resonates.
And एक तो इसकी worldly interpretation है, but then इसकी जो spiritual interpretation है, which is again a Sufi like way of looking at it, is Heer and Ranjha are ultimately those beings that are to be united, that have been separated from God, and like all of us have come down into this universe, we are a reflection of God in some ways, and so we will, from Him we have been born, and to Him we will return, right? That's the belief, and so he's really spiritually kind of communicating that, so ये खुदा का जिक्र है कि he's actually permeates in every fiber of our being.
Doesn't matter which religion.
It doesn't matter which religion.
Temple or mosque you're in, it's about connecting with the divine.
But that's the real struggle, right? You see? मतलब worldly तो हम कह रहे हैं कि उसको अपनी lover के साथ unite होना था, but actual that's the real struggle to of human condition.
So I'm going to put you on spot here because I said you were a singer, and you are. Obviously you've read and you've heard. How about giving our listeners, our audience, a taste of Waris Shah in Punjabi, in his original text?
Okay. So...
You okay?
Yeah, sure. I will attempt to do this. So the little bit that I'm going to sing is the part when it's famous because also of this song that was sung by Shafqat Amanat Ali. But my reason is it has been sung so beautifully by Ustad Tufail Niazi Sahab, who's like a famous, who isn't alive anymore, but one of our most popular folk singers of the region. And उन्होंने जिस तरह ये कलाम गाया है, it's really moved me. So I'm just going to sing a few lines, and in a way like tribute this to him. And this episode is about when Heer is being forcefully married off, and she's saying, no, I don't want to go and live with the Khedas. Sur apna समझ लो पहले. रांझण ढूंढण मैं चली, मैनू रांझा मिलिया नाही, रब मिलिया रांझा ना मिलिया, रब रांझे वर्गा नाही, वे मैं नहीं हो जाना, ओ मैं नहीं हो जाना, मैं नहीं हो जाना खेड़ियां दे नाल, मैं नहीं हो जाना खेड़ियां दे नाल, दिल विच रांझे दा ख्याल, मैं नहीं हो जाना खेड़ियां दे नाल, रांझा मेरा सब तो सोना, रांझा मेरा रज के सोना, खोजी हीर सियाल, मैं नहीं हो जाना खेड़ियां दे नाल।
Wajiha, that was lovely.
Thank you.
Really, really enjoyed it. And obviously, it's a beautiful, beautiful story. Obviously, I wish more and more people look at it and see it's relevant today. But I think with that, we have to end today's episode. It was
Did you have
lovely.
fun?
I had great fun.
Yeah,
had
so
fun.
did I, and I'm looking forward to more of these episodes with you, discovering more of these folk tales.
Same here. In the next episode, we will be looking at another romantic tale, this time from the desert region of Thar, and it's called The Story of Amar Marvi. Until then, thank you for watching and listening. Do send us your feedback. We are very much interested in hearing from you, your ideas, suggestions. There's a way for you to get in touch with us. Look forward to your feedback. And until next time, bye-bye.